5 minutes after my Ring camera showed footage of me waving at my own front door at 3 a.m., except I was in bed the entire time, my doorbell rang, and when I checked the live feed, I saw myself standing there smiling, and I realized someone had been studying me for weeks, learning how to become me. I'm Sloan Rivera. I'm 31 years old, I'm a freelance investigative journalist, and I live alone in a townhouse in Minneapolis. I installed a Ring doorbell camera 6 months ago because I thought it would make me safer. I thought having eyes on my front door would protect me from package thieves and unwanted visitors. I never imagined the camera would show me the most terrifying thing possible. My own face, my own body, my own smile, except it wasn't me. Someone had copied everything about me so perfectly that even my neighbors couldn't tell the difference. And at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday in December, she came to my door and demanded to be let in. If you want to know how a stranger stole my identity so completely that she could fool security cameras and convince people she was me, make sure you subscribe and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. It was early December, about 3 weeks before Christmas, and I was working late on an investigation that had consumed most of my fall. I'm a freelance journalist, which means I work from home most days, researching stories, conducting interviews, writing articles for magazines and websites. For the past 4 months, I'd been deep into a major piece about identity theft rings operating in the Midwest. I'd interviewed dozens of victims, reviewed financial records, tracked down court documents, built a comprehensive picture of how these criminals steal people's identities and ruin their credit. The irony of what was about to happen to me isn't lost on anyone. I live alone in a 2-story townhouse in a quiet suburban neighborhood. It's a safe area, the kind of place where people walk their dogs at night and leave their porch lights on. I'd moved here 2 years earlier after my mom passed away, and I needed a fresh start somewhere that felt manageable and secure. My identical twin sister, Audrey, lives in Seattle, across the country, working as a marketing executive. We FaceTime every week but hadn't seen each other in person for almost a year. Our dad remarried after Mom died and moved to Florida with his new wife, so it's really just me and Audrey now, separated by distance but still close. My best friend Kira lives about 10 minutes away and comes over for wine nights when our schedules line up. But honestly, most of my social life exists through screens, video calls with sources, email exchanges with editors, text threads with friends. I'd gotten used to the solitude, even started to prefer it. 6 months ago, someone stole a package from my porch. Just a book I'd ordered. Nothing expensive, but it bothered me enough that I installed a Ring doorbell camera. I wanted to see who was coming to my door, wanted evidence if something else went missing, wanted that extra layer of security that comes with knowing you're being watched and recorded. The notifications became background noise pretty quickly. Motion detected, package delivered, person walking past. I'd glance at them, see it was just the mail carrier or a neighbor, and go back to work. Over the past week, though, there had been some strange things that bothered me, but didn't quite add up to anything alarming. A barista at my regular coffee shop said, "Good to see you again," even though I hadn't been there in over a week. My neighbor mentioned seeing me out jogging early one morning when I definitely hadn't gone jogging. The pharmacy called to confirm I'd picked up a prescription I'd never ordered. Each time, I found a rational explanation. The barista confused me with another customer. My neighbor saw someone who looked like me from a distance. The pharmacy made a mistake in their system. I'm trained as an investigative journalist to look for patterns and connections, but somehow these incidents stayed separate in my mind because the alternative seemed impossible. On this particular Tuesday night, I worked until about 11 p.m., going through financial documents and interview transcripts for my identity theft article. I finally closed my laptop, made myself some chamomile tea, watched half an episode of a documentary series, and went to bed around midnight. I'm usually a light sleeper, and I keep my phone on my nightstand with Ring notifications turned on. Any unusual alert wakes me up pretty quickly. At 3:07 a.m., my phone buzzed with that distinctive Ring notification sound. My eyes opened immediately, and I reached for my phone, expecting to see a raccoon on my porch, or maybe a late delivery driver. The notification read, "Person detected at your front door." I opened the app, still half asleep, and watched as the video loaded. The screen showed my front porch in black and white night vision mode, the camera's infrared lights illuminating everything clearly. And standing there, directly in front of my camera, waving at it like she was greeting a friend, was me. Same dark brown shoulder-length hair, same height and build, wearing clothes I recognized from my own closet, a gray hoodie, and black leggings that were folded on my bedroom shelf at that exact moment. The woman on my porch was smiling my smile, waving my wave, standing in my posture. And it wasn't me. I was in bed, staring at my phone, watching someone who looked exactly like me standing on my front porch at 3 a.m. My brain couldn't process it. This had to be some kind of glitch. Maybe the app was showing me old footage from when I'd checked the camera earlier. But no, the timestamp clearly showed it was happening right now. 3:07 a.m. live. I watched the 30-second clip again. The woman waved, smiled wider, then stepped out of frame and walked down my porch steps toward the street, disappearing into the darkness. I sat up fully in bed, my heart starting to pound. I got up and went to my bedroom window that faces the street. I looked out but saw nothing. No cars, no people, just empty street under the glow of streetlights. I went back to my phone and checked the live camera feed. My porch was empty now. Everything looked normal, but I knew what I'd just seen. Someone who looked exactly like me had been standing at my door, waving at my security camera in the middle of the night. My hands were shaking as I sat on the edge of my bed, replaying that Ring footage over and over. The woman's face was my face. Not similar, not kind of close, identical. Every feature matched perfectly. The way she stood, the tilt of her head, even the way she smiled. It was all me. My first thought was Audrey. My twin sister could obviously pass for me since we're identical. But Audrey was in Seattle, and even if she'd flown here as some kind of surprise, she would never show up at 3 a.m. without calling first. And she definitely wouldn't be wearing the exact same clothes I owned. I grabbed my phone and texted Audrey anyway, my fingers fumbling over the keyboard. "Are you in Minneapolis? Did you fly here?" 3 dots appeared immediately. She was awake. "No, I'm home in Seattle. Why? What's wrong?" So it wasn't Audrey, which meant someone else who looked exactly like me had been on my porch. I got out of bed and walked through my townhouse, checking every door and window. Front door locked, back door locked, all windows secure. My security system showed armed and no breaches. Nothing had been disturbed, no signs that anyone had tried to get inside. But someone had been outside, close enough to trigger my camera, wearing my face like a mask. I went to my closet and found the gray hoodie and black leggings, exactly where I'd left them folded on the shelf. So whoever that woman was, she had matching clothes, not my actual ones. She'd gone shopping to buy the same outfit. She'd studied what I wore. The rational part of my brain started trying to make sense of it. Maybe it was really good makeup and prosthetics, or digital manipulation, like a deep fake overlaid on the camera footage. I knew about that technology from my investigative work. Criminals were using AI to create fake videos of people saying and doing things they never did. But how would someone hack into my Ring camera specifically? And why would they target me? I sat back down on my couch in the dark, my phone clutched in my hands, watching that 30-second clip for the 10th time. The woman's expression wasn't threatening. It was almost friendly, like she was excited to be there. The wave was enthusiastic. The smile was genuine. It made the whole thing even more disturbing, because it didn't look like someone trying to scare me. It looked like someone happy to see me, or happy to be me. At 3:12 a.m., exactly 5 minutes after that first alert, my doorbell rang. Not a motion detection, the actual doorbell button being pressed. The sound echoed through my quiet townhouse and I nearly screamed. My phone immediately opened the Ring app with the live feed, and what I saw made every muscle in my body freeze. She was back, the same woman, same gray hoodie, same black leggings, standing at my door again. But this time she wasn't waving. She was standing perfectly still, staring directly into the camera with an expression that had changed from friendly to something else. Something intense and focused. Something that made my skin crawl. Then she spoke. Through the Ring camera's two-way audio system, her voice came through my phone's speaker, and it sounded exactly like my voice. Not similar, not a good impression, exactly like me. I know you're watching, Sloan. I can feel you on the other side of this camera. Let me in. I just want to talk to you face to face. I've been working so hard to be you. Don't you want to see how good I've gotten at it? I stopped breathing. This woman knew my name. She'd been practicing being me. She wanted me to let her in. I stayed completely still on my couch in the dark, not making a sound, knowing that if I turned on any lights, she'd be able to tell exactly where I was in the house. The woman tilted her head, the same way I tilt my head when I'm thinking, and kept staring into the camera. I know you're scared right now, but you don't need to be scared of me. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to become you, or maybe for you to become me. We could trade places and nobody would even notice the difference. Doesn't that sound interesting? Doesn't that sound like an adventure? My journalist instincts cut through my terror. This person was mentally ill. This wasn't a prank or some elaborate joke. This was someone who had developed a dangerous obsession with me, someone who had studied me so carefully that she could replicate my appearance and voice, someone who genuinely believed we could switch places. I needed to call the police immediately, but I also needed evidence. I needed to record everything this woman was saying so that when the cops came, they wouldn't think I was paranoid or making things up. With shaking hands, I started screen recording my phone, capturing the live Ring feed and every word this stranger was saying in my voice. Then I opened my mouth and used the two-way audio to respond, forcing my voice to stay calm. Who are you? How do you know my name? The woman's face lit up with excitement that I was talking back to her. I'm you, Sloan. Or I'm becoming you, which is almost the same thing. I've been studying you for weeks now. I know everything about you. Your coffee order at Stella's is a vanilla oat milk latte. You go jogging around the lake on weekends, but only when it's warmer than 40 degrees. You bite your bottom lip when you're concentrating. You have a scar on your left knee from falling off your bike when you were 9 years old. Should I keep going? I have so much more. My stomach turned as I listened to this stranger recite details about my life that she shouldn't know. The coffee order was public enough. Anyone could observe that. But the scar on my knee, the way I bite my lip when I'm thinking, those were things you'd only notice from extended, close observation. This woman had been watching me for much longer than a few days. She'd been studying me like I was a subject in an experiment, learning my patterns and habits and physical quirks. What do you want from me? I asked through the Ring speaker, my voice shaking despite my effort to sound steady. The woman smiled wider, clearly pleased that I was engaging with her. I already told you. I want to be you. Your life is so much better than mine. You have this beautiful house, and interesting work, and people who care about you. I want all of that. And the best part is, I've gotten so good at being you that I could just slide into your life and nobody would know the difference. I've already tested it. I went to your coffee shop yesterday morning and ordered your drink, and the barista smiled at me like she knew me. I jogged past your neighbor's house, and he waved and said good morning. I even went to your pharmacy and picked up medication in your name. Everyone believed I was you, because I am you now. Every strange incident from the past week suddenly made horrible sense. The barista recognizing me when I hadn't been there. My neighbor mentioning seeing me jogging. The pharmacy calling about a prescription I never ordered. It had all been her, practicing being me in public, testing how well she could fool the people in my life. While keeping the Ring app open and recording, I reached for my Apple Watch with my other hand and used it to text Kira. Emergency. Someone at my door pretending to be me. Call police. Don't come here. Then I used the watch to dial 911, keeping my phone focused on recording every second of this encounter. The dispatcher answered on the second ring. 911, what's your emergency? I kept my voice as low as possible, moving quietly to my downstairs bathroom where there were no windows facing the street. My name is Sloan Rivera. I'm at 847 Pinewood Lane. There's a woman at my front door who's impersonating me. She looks exactly like me and she's been stalking me. I have video evidence. I need officers here right now. The dispatcher's tone became more urgent. You said someone looks exactly like you? Is this a family member or someone you know? No, I have no idea who she is, but she's copied my appearance and she's been following me and watching me. She's on my front porch right now and I'm recording everything on my security camera. Officers are being dispatched to your location now. Can you stay on the line with me? Are all your doors and windows locked? Yes, everything is locked. I'm safe inside, but she's outside demanding that I let her in. Through the Ring app audio, I could hear the woman on my porch getting frustrated that I'd stopped responding. Sloan, why did you stop? Talking to me? I thought we were having a conversation. Don't you want to understand how much work I've put into this? I've been so dedicated to learning everything about you. Then something on my phone caught my eye that made my blood run cold. I opened my Ring app settings and saw that there were 2 devices logged into my account. My phone and another device I didn't recognize. Someone else had access to all my Ring camera footage. This woman had been logged into my account for weeks, watching every time I came and went, studying how I moved and dressed and carried myself. She'd been using my own security system to stalk me. My hands shook as I immediately changed my Ring password, which automatically logged out all other devices. I watched as the woman on my porch pulled out her phone, looked at it with confusion and then anger, realizing she'd been kicked out of the account. That wasn't very nice, Sloan, she said, her voice taking on a sharp edge now. I was only watching you to learn, to become better at being you. You should be flattered that someone wants your life this badly. Most people never have someone care about them this much. In the distance, I heard sirens. The woman heard them too. Her expression shifted from anger to something like disappointment, mixed with determination. I guess our first face-to-face meeting is going to have to be cut short. But don't worry, I'm not giving up. I've worked too hard on becoming you to stop now. This is just the beginning, Sloan. You're going to see me again. And next time, you might not even realize it's me, and not you. She turned and walked calmly down my porch steps, moving with my exact gait and posture, disappearing into the shadows between the streetlights. By the time 2 police cars pulled onto my street with their lights flashing, she was completely gone. I unlocked my front door with trembling hands as Officer Chen and Officer Rodriguez approached. I must have looked terrified, because Officer Chen immediately asked if I was hurt, if I was safe, if the person was still nearby. I shook my head and held up my phone. I have everything recorded. You need to see this right now. We went inside and I played them the footage. I watched their expressions change from professional skepticism to genuine concern as they saw a woman who looked identical to me standing on my porch at 3 a.m., talking about becoming me, revealing that she'd been impersonating me around my neighborhood. Officer Rodriguez immediately called for a detective, while Officer Chen started taking my statement, asking me to describe every strange thing that had happened over the past weeks. By the time Detective Marcus Hammond arrived at 4:30 a.m., I'd gone through everything 3 times, and the weight of what had been happening was finally hitting me. Someone had been stealing my identity, but not in the way I'd been investigating for my article. She wasn't after my credit cards or bank account. She was after my entire existence. She wanted to become me so completely that even I wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Detective Marcus Hammond sat at my dining table reviewing the Ring footage for the 3rd time, his expression growing more serious with each viewing. He was in his late 40s with graying hair and the kind of calm demeanor that comes from years of dealing with worst-case scenarios. He asked me to walk him through every strange incident from the past weeks, taking detailed notes on everything. The coffee shop barista, the neighbor who saw me jogging, the pharmacy calling about a prescription. Each incident that I'd dismissed as a simple mistake now formed a clear pattern. This person has been conducting what we call practice runs, Detective Hammond explained. She's been testing how well she can pass as you in public settings before attempting direct contact. The fact that she came to your home and revealed herself means she's escalating. People with this type of obsession don't stop on their own. They have to be stopped. He asked me if I had an identical twin, and I explained about Audrey living in Seattle. He asked about other family members who might resemble me, and I told him about my dad in Florida. but nobody who looked enough like me to explain what I'd seen on that camera. Then we're dealing with someone who either naturally resembles you closely enough that styling and mannerisms can complete the illusion, or someone who's had cosmetic procedures to look more like you. Combined with the obsessive studying and the desire to become you, this fits a specific psychological profile: borderline personality disorder with identity disturbance and obsessive features. Kira arrived around 5 a.m., having called the police like I'd asked, and then waited until she got the all clear to come over. She brought my laptop from my upstairs office thinking it might be useful for the investigation. As she handed it to Detective Hammond, something clicked in my memory. "Wait," I said, my heart racing as the pieces connected. "About 3 weeks ago, I interviewed someone for my identity theft investigation, a woman named Jill Meadows. She contacted me saying she was a victim of identity fraud and wanted to share her story. But when I met with her, something felt off. Her story didn't quite make sense. She kept deflecting my questions and asking me personal things instead. I got uncomfortable and ended the interview early. I didn't include her testimony in my article." Detective Hammond's attention sharpened immediately. "Do you have contact information for this person?" I pulled up my interview notes and found Jill Meadows's phone number and the address she'd given me. Detective Hammond ran the information through his system, and within minutes, his entire demeanor changed. Jill Meadows, 29 years old. She has a prior stalking conviction from 2 years ago in Chicago. She became obsessed with a female coworker and attempted to assume her identity. Got caught trying to access the victim's apartment using a copied key. She was mandated to undergo psychiatric treatment and relocated here after completing the program. Everything made horrible sense. Jill hadn't contacted me because she was a victim of identity theft. She'd contacted me to get close to me, to study me during that interview, to start her obsession. She'd watched how I spoke, how I laughed, how I moved. She'd used that initial meeting as a foundation to build her impersonation. Detective Hammond immediately coordinated with other units to locate Jill. They found an address on file for her and went to conduct what they called a welfare check. At 7:15 a.m., I got a call from Detective Hammond. "We're at her apartment. You need to know what we found." His voice was tense in a way that made my stomach drop. "What did you find?" I asked, though part of me didn't want to know. "Her entire apartment is covered in photos of you, printed from your social media, screenshots from your published articles, pictures that look like they were taken when you were out in public. She has clothes identical to yours hanging in her closet, makeup organized with notes on how to replicate your appearance. We found recordings where she's been practicing speaking in your voice, trying to match your inflection and speech patterns. And there's a journal, Sloan. Pages and pages where she's been writing entries pretending to be you, practicing inhabiting your identity." I felt like I might throw up. "Is she there? Did you arrest her?" "We have her in custody now. She's being cooperative, actually. Disturbingly cooperative. She keeps saying she just wanted to be close to you, that she admired you so much she wanted to become you. She's being taken for a psychiatric evaluation, but based on the evidence in this apartment, she'll be facing multiple charges including stalking, identity fraud, harassment, and unauthorized access to your security system." An hour later, Detective Hammond returned to my house with photos of what they'd found in Jill's apartment. I forced myself to look, even though every image made me feel more violated. My face covered every wall of her bedroom. She'd created a timeline of my daily routine with notes about where I went and when. She had folders organized by topic: my work schedule, my coffee shop visits, my jogging routes, my clothing choices. Most disturbing was a section she'd titled Becoming Sloan, where she documented her transformation process day by day, noting what she'd practiced, where she'd tested her impersonation, how successful each attempt had been. The pharmacy incident was her first successful public test, Detective Hammond explained. She walked in confidently, gave your name and birth date, and they handed over medication without question. That's when she knew she'd gotten good enough to escalate. I learned that Jill had been watching my Ring camera for almost 2 weeks after somehow accessing my account. Credentials, possibly through phishing or social engineering. She'd studied every time I left my house, every delivery person I interacted with, every neighbor I waved to. She'd learned my body language so precisely that she could replicate it. The journal entries were the hardest to hear about. Detective Hammond read me a few excerpts, and hearing my own thoughts and feelings described in someone else's handwriting made my skin crawl. She'd been writing as me, practicing being me on paper before attempting it in real life. I am Sloan Rivera. I wake up at 7 a.m. and make coffee. I check my email. I start writing. This is my life now. This is who I am. Over and over, she'd written variations of the same thing, trying to convince herself that my identity could become hers. Jill was formally arrested and charged with multiple felonies. The psychiatric evaluation revealed severe borderline personality disorder with dissociative features and obsessive tendencies. She'd struggled with identity disturbance for years, feeling like she had no solid sense of self. When she'd encountered me during that interview, something had triggered an intense fixation. She'd decided that if she could become me, she'd finally have a clear identity. The court ultimately found her incompetent to stand trial and committed her to a long-term psychiatric facility with a minimum stay of several years. I couldn't sleep in my townhouse for over a week after everything happened. Even knowing Jill was locked in a psychiatric facility, even with upgraded security and new cameras installed, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every time I walked past a window, I imagined her standing outside studying me. Every time I caught my reflection, I thought of her wearing my face. I stayed with Kira for those first few nights, sleeping on her couch, because being alone felt impossible. My twin sister Audrey flew in from Seattle the day after Jill's arrest, and seeing her face, the same face Jill had copied, was initially jarring. But having Audrey there also helped ground me. We stayed up late talking about identity, about what it means when someone tries to steal not just your credit cards or passwords, but your entire self, your existence, your way of moving through the world. She wanted to erase you and replace you, Audrey said one night. That's different from any other crime I can imagine. She didn't want to hurt you physically. She wanted something stranger. She wanted to become you so completely that you'd disappear. That was exactly it. Jill's obsession wasn't about violence in the traditional sense. It was about erasure, about taking my identity so thoroughly that I'd cease to exist as a separate person. Detective Hammond stayed in regular contact during the investigation and legal proceedings, explaining everything they'd found and what would happen next. The evidence was overwhelming. The photos covering her walls, the practice recordings, the journal entries, written in my voice, the unauthorized access to my Ring account, the pharmacy fraud. All of it painted a picture of someone whose grip on reality had deteriorated to the point where she genuinely believed she could and should become another person. The psychiatric evaluation revealed that Jill's previous stalking case in Chicago had followed the same pattern. She'd fixated on a coworker named Amanda, studied her obsessively, tried to replicate her appearance and mannerisms, and eventually attempted to move into Amanda's life by copying her keys and accessing her apartment. The mandated treatment she'd received hadn't addressed the core issue. Moving to Minneapolis had just given her a fresh start to repeat her pattern with a new target. This time, that target was me. Starting therapy was hard because I had to explain to someone what it felt like to see your own face on a stranger, to hear your own voice coming from someone else's mouth saying terrifying things, to know that someone had been practicing being you with the goal of replacing you. My therapist helped me understand that what Jill had attempted was a form of identity theft that went far beyond financial fraud. She tried to steal my psychological identity, my social identity, my physical presentation, everything that made me recognizably me in the world. The violation was existential in a way that traditional crimes aren't. Returning to my townhouse took almost 3 weeks. When I finally did, everything had been changed. New locks on every door, additional cameras covering angles the Ring doorbell couldn't see, a monitored security system that would alert a company if anything unusual happened, motion sensor lights that turned on whenever someone approached. But no amount of physical security could address the psychological impact. I'd installed the Ring camera to feel safer, and instead it had become the tool that showed me my worst nightmare. Someone using my face to wave at my own security system. Someone who'd hacked into that same system to study me for weeks. Technology meant to protect me had been weaponized against me. My investigative article on identity theft took on new dimensions after my experience. I added an entire section about identity stalking and psychological crimes that go beyond financial fraud. I interviewed experts on borderline personality disorder and obsessive fixation. I wrote about how our digital footprints and public presence make us vulnerable to people who want to study and copy us. I dedicated the piece to victims of identity crimes that can't be measured in dollars or credit scores. The article was published in a major national magazine and got significant attention, but I made sure to keep certain details of my own case private. I didn't want to give other people ideas, and I didn't want Jill to have the satisfaction of being the center of a story. Kira became even more important to me after everything happened. She was the one person who truly understood the specific horror of what I'd experienced because she'd seen the footage and heard the recordings. We developed a code phrase we'd use when calling or texting each other, so I'd know it was really her and not someone impersonating her. It seemed paranoid to other people, but to us, it made perfect sense. My relationship with Audrey also deepened. Having an identical twin meant I understood better than most people how appearance is both deeply personal and strangely arbitrary. We share the same face, but we're completely different people. Jill could copy my face, but she couldn't be me because identity is so much more than physical appearance. After Audrey went back to Seattle, we committed to FaceTiming twice a week instead of once, and we planned visits every few months instead of once a year. The experience made me realize how isolated I'd become working from home, living alone, letting most of my relationships exist through screens. I made changes. I started working from coffee shops a few days a week instead of always being home. I joined a local journalists' networking group that met monthly. I made an effort to have in-person interactions instead of defaulting to digital ones, not because I was afraid of being alone, but because I realized that identity isn't just internal, it's also relational, built through connections with other people who know you as more than just a face or a set of mannerisms. The key lesson I learned is that identity is both more fragile and more resilient than I'd ever understood. Jill could copy my appearance, my voice, my clothing, my daily patterns. She could fool my barista and my neighbor. She could practice being me until she almost convinced herself it was real. But she couldn't actually become me because identity isn't just a collection of observable traits. It's the accumulated experiences, relationships, choices, memories, and internal narrative that makes someone uniquely themselves. She could wear my face like a mask, but she couldn't have my history with Audrey, my grief over losing my mother, my professional reputation built over years, my personal quirks that only close friends know, my private thoughts and fears and hopes. Identity goes deeper than what can be copied or stolen. But I also learned how vulnerable we all are. The information we share online, the patterns we follow in daily life, the ways we present ourselves publicly, all of it can be studied and exploited by someone determined enough. The technology we use for convenience and security can be turned against us by people who understand it better than we do. Trust that seems reasonable can be violated. Boundaries that seem clear can be crossed. I think about that ring notification at 3 a.m. constantly. Person detected at door. Such a routine alert. I'd seen it hundreds of times, but this time, the person it detected was me. Except it wasn't me at all. It was someone who'd studied me so obsessively that she could replicate everything visible about me. Someone who'd hacked my security system not to rob my house, but to rob my identity. When I saw that footage of myself waving at my own camera, when I heard my own voice coming from a stranger saying she wanted to become me, I felt a violation I still struggle to put into words. 5 minutes was all it took from that first notification to the doorbell ringing and seeing that woman standing there, wearing my face like it belonged to her. 5 minutes, where my understanding of security and identity and selfhood completely shattered. I'd spent months investigating crimes where people steal social security numbers and drain bank accounts. Those violations are serious and destructive. But what Jill tried to do was different. She tried to steal me. Not my information, but my existence. Not my accounts, but myself. I'm still processing what it means that identity can feel so solid and so permeable at the same time. That someone can practice being you until they convince your neighbors and your barista. That the boundary between you and someone else can feel frighteningly thin when they study you carefully enough. But I've also learned that identity is more than surface details. It's everything underneath that can't be seen or copied or stolen. The internal narrative, the private experiences, the relationships built on shared history, the person you are when nobody's watching. Jill could look like me and sound like me and move like me, but she couldn't be me because being me isn't about those external things. It's about everything underneath that she couldn't access, no matter how obsessively she studied me. The Ring camera was supposed to make me safer. Instead, it showed me the most terrifying thing I could imagine, my own face distorted by someone else's obsession, demanding to be let in. But it also provided the evidence that saved me, that stopped Jill before she could escalate further, that proved I wasn't imagining this nightmare. Technology failed me and protected me in the same moment, and I'm still living with that paradox. If this story made you think about your own digital footprint and who might be watching, please subscribe for more real stories about identity, technology, and the unexpected ways our tools can be used against us. And drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Stay vigilant, change your passwords regularly, enable two-factor authentication on everything, and remember that the security systems meant to protect us can also become windows for people who want to study us too closely. Your identity is more than your face, but your face is still worth protecting.